We're stronger. Send out that Argonite energy. Nepturio Queen, I am well. Thank you. Well, if no one's ever watched me before, I go by 8 Wind is Timeless. I am the holder of the infinite spiritual ball game that was created by the Hero Twins. And I'm also the Galactic Daddy-O. Welcome one and all for sitting on my galactic patio from Minnesota to the universe. Pop them if you want them. Smoke them if you got them. I'm just drinking regular, some sugar treated water in case I get parched as I speak. And as always, our very special sponsor is Drakkar Essence by Guy LaRoche for the man who needs it. Good evening, everyone. I do have a few subjects because I just go off the top of it, but today I got a couple things to say. I'm not going to go too terribly long tonight because what time is it? Yeah, I'm getting up early and I'm going to play pickleball. No doubt. Not going to want to play after the games come on tomorrow, so I'm going to get up early, which 9, get there about 10 or so, and get me like 8 to 10 games in and get a nice cardio workout. So, I do want to start with one thing. And one thing that kind of gets me is when you have people that try to talk about sports that don't really follow sports, what happens is we have popular subjects that come up. And so people want to give their 2 cents. And if these things are sports related, they really are kind of like they're just talking about things without really actually knowing what's going on. Now, what's going on with Gruden? Remember, Gruden was with ABC Monday Night Football from 2011 to 2018. He was with Monday Night Football. He was not with the NFL. I believe he got fired from, let me see, they won the Super Bowl in what, 2 or 4, something like that, Tampa Bay. And then he got fired like 7, 8, and then he went into Monday Night Football. So none of his work, his emails wasn't with the NFL email. He wasn't part of that. Now, as I've said before, Gruden is pretty much royalty. I mentioned before, his daddy must have been a recruiter from Notre Dame when I was a senior in high school because both them boys, John and Jay, are younger than me. I think John is 2 years younger than me and Jay is probably 4 years younger than me. So I got a letter from their daddy from Notre Dame when I was a senior. You know, you get a bunch of letters when you're in high school, at least you should. And so the daddy sent me a letter. So there are 2 to 3 generations of NFL family. Now, the main thing about Gruden is, remember, Gruden has $60 million on the table. The Raiders are a cash-poor team. The Davis got a lot of help with that new stadium, and last year didn't help them. Gruden was getting $10 million a year for 10 years, which is $100 million. He's made $40 million of that so far. So there's $60 million left on the table. That's what it's about. You have to remember when the ritual when Antonio Brown was with the Raiders. Remember the whole shame ritual they went through then with his feet? And they kept saying that if he makes it to a certain date, he's guaranteed $84 million. And that all his annex was the loss of $84 million. So that's really what it's about. In 2002 with Tony Dungy's team. Yeah, Tony's my cousin. They bogusly fired Tony. And remember, Gruden, I'll take this back. When Gruden went to Tampa after they fired my cousin Tony, he was traded. You can trade coaches. He was traded. So they traded players. Gruden was traded to Tampa Bay with Tony's team. Now, I guess he made some remark about Demarius Smith. Let me see. Oh, it's not going to do it for me. Ah, there we go. Now look at this dude. This dude has an extreme underbite. He's got some of it fixed, but he has an underbite. You know, like the dude on The Simpsons or one of them, the Family Guy, and he's got the tremendous underbite. That's who this dude is. This dude has an underbite, and it looks like in this picture he's kind of been fixed. But let me just show you other pictures. You can see this dude has an underbite, and it used to be worse than this. Now, I'm just saying. I was trying to find an older picture of him, but again, you can see his deformity just looking at that picture. You can pretty much see what I'm talking about. His lip protrudes out. So I know Gruden talks shit, but it's like people don't even know the whole history of his coaching and his legacy in the family connections, and people try to talk about sports with nothing to do with sports. They really don't follow it. It's like people speaking on Irvin. Irvin is controlled opposition. There ain't nothing real or organic about what he's doing. He's controlled opposition. They're controlling the narrative. They make him the bad guy. I mean, hell, what did the fat dude that got kicked off a speech, Jason Whitlock, said that Irvin could be like Muhammad Ali, who's also paid by them peoples. So he's controlled opposition. So this whole thing is not organic. He don't give a damn. He has been very charitable. But remember, when they do charity, that's tax write-off. So that's a two-edged sword right there. It ain't like they just do it and like, well, we just did that and there's nothing else to know. The time and money they give to these charities, you get to write that off. Keep that in mind. Hey, Lorenzo. Oh, yeah, it probably wouldn't give a notification because there's a couple reasons why I came on that. And the Bucks with 02, yeah, the NFL made it for him back in 06 with the Colts. Yeah, exactly. They gave it. They helped Tony because remember, Tony suffered with Vanderjagt. They had tied up a team when he had Peyton Manning because remember, Tony won one, in 06. But remember in 04, 05, when Vanderjagt was the best kicker and the highest paid kicker, and he didn't come through for him. It's like they watching Tony. They got the camera on Tony, and Tony's face is like he missed because they put him. Peyton drove him down there and put him in position to score, and Vanderjagt missed. And Tony's like stunned. He missed. They did make up for it in 06, which let's tell the whole story. Remember, in 05, Tony's son was found hung down in Tampa Bay. Remember that. Young man in his early 20s going to college. They found that he hung himself. So let's not forget that. Let's tell the whole story. But NFL wants them to wake up these missed field goals. Yeah, King Kane. Hey, how you doing, King Kane? Thanks for that. 05 lost to the Steelers. Yeah. Hey, Alito. Yeah. Yeah, something like that. But it was 2 years in a row he lost on kicks like that. 2 years in a row that he lost on kicks. So it just gives me when people that don't follow sports and think these people as heroes. It's like they said Gruden said something about Kaepernick. Keep this in mind about Gruden, and you guys can look this up. Look it up while I'm talking. There's 50, I think since there's 17 games, they picked up 2 more people. So isn't it 55 or 56 players this year? They picked up, that was the agreement when the NFL Players Association was if there were going to be another game, they would have more players. So they picked up 1 or 2 more players per teams. Now, look up the Los Angeles Raiders and see how many melanated people is on the Raiders team. It's probably a majority. And Gruden had a say in every person. And that's one thing the head coach does have a say in, is he has a say pretty much in every person. So it can't be too terrible. He gave Mariota a job. Mariota's just coming off the injury reserve. So I'm not giving any excuses for this motherfucker because, again, he's part of the system, been part of the system. But what I'm saying is it just kind of cracks me up. These people talk about sports that don't know sports. It's just a talking thing to them. Okay. I knew something was choking me. So that kind of trips me out. And again, don't feel bad for Irving, because it is not organic what he's doing. It is something to make him the boogeyman. It's just as many people that loved Ali when he said he wasn't going to Vietnam, and that they never called him a nigga. Viet Cong never called him a nigga. It was just as many people that hated him. So, in Big Ten country, y'all play football, but down here SEC, we play football. They get, gosh, well, Ohio State had a nice run. Ohio State had some of the better athletes, and like they were saying, well, Harbaugh, dude was talking to me earlier. Harbaugh would never get fired from Michigan as long as he has a winning record. I mean, they'll rake in home games 100,000 people, and that's money. And he hasn't had a losing season. Now, he hasn't beat Ohio State, and this is probably his best year to beat Ohio State. I forget what Michigan gets, but Ohio State, they get little gold pants. Like you get a little necklace with gold pants if you beat Michigan. I forget what Michigan players get for beating Ohio State. And so far, we're in his third graduating class. So he's 6 years. So he's had a full recruiting class of 4 in 2 years, but he still hasn't had a losing season. So he's not going to get fired, not for Michigan. But Michigan, you have to see that every team in the Big Ten, and that was a thing that I wasn't sure that this Minnesota guy that took over, that he could get them 6'5", 260, 290-pound linemen like I showed in the pancake block. But he's been getting them, and they won today. Lady I played pickleball with went to the game today. She's a little old lady, probably close to 70. So what I think, yeah, this is agenda with Kyrie. This is definitely agenda with Kyrie. It's not organic. It's to make him the bad guy, because right now the country is kind of torn between the two. Let me say this. One of the hospitals here is closing down for this weekend. I think it's called Elena Hospital here is going to close down because the nurses went on strike, and they're saying they're going on strike for other reasons, but they're going on strike. So they're going to be closed the next 3 days. Now, again, this is a smaller hospital, not at one of the bigger hospitals, but it is interesting because they're they said it ain't got nothing to do with the shots as part of the contract negotiations, but it has something to do with it. It's possible this guy was super close to Kobe, who was a big-time Satanist. No, that could be very well true. I'm not feeling bad for Urban or Gruden because I know it's the story behind the story. Oh, and like with Urban, one thing about Urban Myers is doing the same thing that Paul Pierce did. He wants out of there. He wants out of that bad situation. Again, it was probably just a gimmick, but he wants out, and that's action of him wanting out. His wife ain't breaking up over that. His wife ain't breaking over that. It appears it's all with Urban in the club, feeling on the girl, knowing cameras is on him. Come on now. He ain't stupid. He wasn't that drunk. I think he's trying to get out of it. That's the thing I see. And it's like, how long? How are they going to keep him? Hey, Moonrock, thank you for joining. Mo Ray, do you know his name? Hey, Marcus the Great. Did I miss something? Ohio. There you go. You remember when Kyrie had Sage before the game? Exactly. And that's a mocking. I thought that his Sage was a mocking. CJ Stiffire back at Marlboro, the vaccine like a cheeseburger. And if any of y'all notice, see if you can look up when Smith is getting his thing. That wig he wears, like when he started, he had hair to here. His fake hair, like his real hair is way back here now. So all that up in here is wig, whatever you want to call it. Because you can look at natural, the natural spot but it's just funny when he took that. And there's a commercial. They did a commercial last year too. I wish I'd have caught it, where they show without that extra hair in there, where his hair hadn't been put back in. So it's kind of funny. But Smith, again, he's a stooge. He's a stooge for the bag. If they told him to wear a dress or a kilt, I wouldn't be surprised that you're going to see him in a dress or a kilt, because he is that much of a stooge. All he cares about is playing the villain that they make him be. And as much as I really don't follow Kwame Brown, putting Smith on blast, and I'll say this now. A lot of people got on Corey because Corey took a picture with him. Corey, my size. Smith is about 6'3", 6'4". But Corey was one of the first to really blast in Corey Holcomb. He was one of the first to really blast Smith, showing that Smith, and it's funny, Jason Whitlock had Kwame Brown, but Jason Whitlock was the same way, brother hating. I think I've said this before. I think Jason Whitlock is a dude or a woman. I really do. If you look at him, no neck. I don't know how he played football because this dude is only about 5'3", 5'4". Now I did play. We had a guy on our team that was about 5'4". He did play tackle, but he never got into games. He was a practice squad player, but I mean a practice scout team player. He never played in the games, and he was a defensive lineman. I often people used to tease the coach was like, when y'all saw him on film, what made you bring him in, a 5'4" lineman? And he was 5'4". Oh, shit. I'm saying 190, 200 pounds. He wasn't no big fat fight. He wasn't like Jason Whitlock. He was stubby, but still 5'4". How big could he be? He wasn't like over 230. He wasn't that big at 5'4", because I'd be fat at 5'4". This dude was, I bet 220. He never played. He was on the team. He went to the home games. He didn't travel. He went to New Jersey when we went. Yeah, he did. He did travel, but he wasn't on no kickoffs and all that shit. So I wonder why he traveled, but he did. I was starting to think because when we went to New Jersey and played the Meadowlands, his people was up there, so he did go. He got us liquor. Seemed like he got liquor after we rolled back with. But yeah. Jeremiah Crenshaw, do you believe to some degree high school football players is also rigged? I don't believe in anything. Ismail, what's happening? Thank you for joining. Amp, how are you doing? He would say, how short. I'll get to that. Soap, I said, what's happening to you, gentlemen? There, MB doesn't want to get it for some reason. We don't. CJ, what's happening? Sounds like an L. Yeah, exactly. Got liquor out all day. Oh, yeah, he took liquor. But I'll answer your question. As we see the football games, the high school football games become more televised. And again, if you're seeing a betting line on the game, which is probably illegal. So I don't know that there'll be an open betting line on the high school games. But again, I don't know. They could be compromised. But a lot of ways they compromise high schools is with the refs. I mean, it really is with the refs. And I've said this before. I did one game where this team would run a pick play off the ref. And so I was seeing the play. I'm like, oh, okay. So I would start positioning myself indifferent. And it's funny, the quarterback would call an audible. He would call an audible to the side I was on, and they would run the play to the other side. So I started dropping back a little bit, trying to get out the play. A couple of times I went up forward, kind of almost on the line of scrimmage, like just behind the defensive line, just to kind of mix up my look. But that is how it's done mostly in high school. It's cheating. It's cheating. It's refs cheating. Hey, Liquid Fire, what's happening? Let's go, Brandon. Have you seen our Netflix show going into sports rigging, truth in plain sight? And that's funny because that's not new. That thing they did about the boy from Arizona, ESPN and other shows broke that down years ago. The rigging, the worst rigging was in the early 50s. When I've said this before, when Connie Hawkins and Doug Moe and Roger Brown, when the NBA tried to stop them from going to the Knicks because they knew that none of them was involved in the riggings. Again, Doug Moe was put out of the NBA for he was kicked out of college for not telling Dean Smith that he was approached by gamblers. He was approached by him. He's like, fuck you, I don't need that. And because he didn't tell his coach, that's the excuse they did to bar him from the NBA. But the three of them was from New York. They were going to be territorial picks, and Connie Hawkins would have been like Michael Jordan coming into the league. The play we see of Dr. J that hit the ABA in the late 60s would have hit the NBA in 63, 64. And so, but the worst rigging, that's the thing to watch is in the 50s, how some of these cats, like they talked about this brother that got rigged, that got put out and couldn't go into any of the leagues, actually had to quit basketball, period. This brother got something like 6,000, 7,000, and it was more money than he knew what to do with. It was like he gave them back all the money that he made. It was like they gave him so much money, the dude didn't even know what to do with the money. He didn't tell his mom or anything. He bought like a few clothes, but it was like most of the money was still there. Maybe 6,000, 7,000 was too much, but it was like more money than he had ever seen in his life. And they borrowed him. It was about 20 or 30 of them. NYCC years they won the NIT. Again, the NIT used to be more popular than the NCAA tournament. I've said this before. Jalen Rose's daddy, Jimmy Walker, was a star in the NIT, and I believe Jimmy Walker was the number one pick in 65 or 66, the number one overall pick, and I think he went to the Pistons. So he did his fame on the NIT and not necessarily the NCAA championship. The NCAA championships really didn't get popular until Jabbar went to school. That is when it picked up. Because again, UCLA won in what, 66, 67. Jabbar's freshman, 66, 67, maybe 68. Yeah, I think they won it 2 years or 3 years straight from 66 with Walter Hazard. And then Jabbar comes and he wins it all 3 of his years. And then the Walton years. But that is when NCAA really picked up over the NIT. Before then, it was all about the NIT. Everybody wanted to go to play in the NIT and not the NCAA. So yeah, Uncut Gems talk about how games are rigged too. Okay, that's somebody might have mentioned him to me. It's looking like the end of America is coming within 1 year unless people stand up. Well, a brother put something interesting I watched. And he was saying, if the states became countries, which technically that's what history doesn't tell you the Indian nations had, especially the nations on the East Coast. Remember, the natives wasn't discovered. A lot of the natives wasn't discovered until the 1800s. The people that lived way out west, not the ones that was forced out, but the people that was like in this part of the country, some of these people weren't discovered until later. So like here, 15, 16, I'm trying to think, was it 15? Where's the book right by me? But that's when they were discovered. They weren't discovered in the 1600s. They were discovered hundreds of years later, because again, this is where the British mostly was up and down, and in Canada, though that kind of the coast of Canada, Mackinac, up in there, that is where, like in Michigan, the first what would be a native was discovered was up there. So, and that's coming from New York, because you can take the Sioux Locks. Well, you can go from Michigan. You can go from Chicago all the way to New York through the Sioux Locks, the Hudson Bay, all that will go through that way. So 90% of Australia is vaxxed. We doomed here. Yeah, but to answer your question fully, the brother had proposed that if we break into countries, which would be favorable, I think the thing that if we erase the centralized, we erase what should have been done in the Civil War, because again, DC was in war against the southern states by themselves, really. When they fired, when Johnson fired on them at Fort Sumter, it was them by themselves. It was just DC. It was DC against the Southerners. It wasn't against the rest of the Union states. It was against strictly DC. Now, DC tricked everybody. They tricked everybody and said it was part of our war too. But in reality, the war was just against them. Wasn't against the people in Minnesota, wasn't against the people in Michigan, wasn't against Illinois. It was none of that. It was clearly against the feds. And they turned it into something else. So if they can get rid of that, because as I said before, keep in mind what the federal government would do. The federal government would rather let a foreign country take over some of these states long as they could have a say in it. I mean, this is how corrupt the country really is. They would do this. They would let if everybody said we're going to be our own countries, they say, okay, well, you can't have our federal army, even though the states on the coast have Coast Guards, and some of the Coast Guards work for the states. So that's okay. But this is how crooked our people are. That for them to get control, they would do Man in the White Castle. Remember, the country was chopped up in two, the Japanese and the Germans. And so you don't think they would purposely do that again? Our country would purposely back one of these the DC country would back one of these foreigners long as they could still get their piece of the pie. And that is how dirty they are. Like I said, with Planet of the Apes, they would rather destroy the world than let the people have it back. That's the end of the world to them. If they lose control, that's the end of the world to them, to the elites, to them peoples. That's the end of the world to them. So you talking about chopping up the states? Because again, who it would be the real enemy? It's only one enemy to the people here. That's it, one enemy. It ain't a whole bunch of enemies. It's only one. That's why we had the fake thing on January 6th. That was all Democrat controlled. Said before, there wasn't no killers up there. Revolution comes with killing. Look up the Spanish Revolution, or excuse me, the French Revolution. It comes with killing. That's a revolution. It comes with killing. That was that farce. Did somebody really get killed in that event? We don't know. We really don't know. That's a farce. That was no resurrection. That was nothing. That was television. That's all that was television. And it's already been proven that it was guards helping them come in. There's too much information out there. Now they're talking about they want to arrest one of the guards that helped them and they want his emails. He was told by them peoples to help like that. So, you know, we're not going to be tricked so easily. We're not going to be tricked so easily. So I guess my point is, I'm gonna finish this point is, if you don't know sports, quit making them a speaking point. If you can't tell the whole story, don't mention the fucking sound bites you hearing, because that's what I'm hearing today. A lot of sound bites, you know, without really knowing full about sports. You only know about what you're hearing lately. I got to the 28th till my work wants me having it. Wow, so I hate to hear that. Conservative Falcons fan. If Gruden is judged by past emails, Bill should have been searched for cheating. Yeah, there you go. There you go. He sure should have been. And filming. Hey, homie. Hey, Jody. Jody, I'm not going to say no names, but it was a dude talking earlier on one of the other shows. I'm not going to say, I don't even know the dude's name. I'm not going to say the show because he's one of my brothers. This is his show. But this dude, he kept going back to, it's like you can tell when a person's, go-to is something. His go-to was all about the cheating and Trump. Ain't nobody talking about Trump cheating and nothing. And this dude keeps going back to it. Then he admits that he's in the Department of Defense. And Jody, now you on here, I want you to hear this part. He said he don't help dudes in his 30s. He only helps young people. And I'm thinking, this motherfucker is a handler. He just told the world that he's a handler. He only works with young people, young impoverished people. That's a handler. That's a handler. And he admitted during one of these debates or these tables that he was a handler. See, people don't think you listen. And I'm like, this motherfucker's a handler. Not only does he work for the government, pushing the government agenda. I mean, like Michael Jordan came in and said he's for the plunge, and he says he trusts the science. Now, does Michael Jordan look like a motherfucker that would be talking about science? Why something's good? No. They gave Michael a piece of paper and said, Mike, this is what you got to say. Just say you trust the science. Problem solved. Mike could go out there and say, well, I trust the science. That's a talking point. That's not an intellectual response. That is like, here, dummy, say what you're told to say. Oh, hey, Amp Redmond, what's happening? Well, I mean, you have to look at your own situation. You have to really look at your own situation. So I can't say yay or nay. Coined by Henry Potter, who started his career as a teacher and coach of Athens High School in Central Illinois. I ran across somebody that said they went to that high school. I was listening to somebody, and they said they went to that high school. Yeah, that's right, homie. Let me see. The natives that west of the Mississippi started coming over the 1800s. Angel Island in California. There's a good point. Hey, strong discernment. Yeah, I said that. Now, what I said is what Philip Randolph said is every American should have went to D.C. and shut the government down. I mean, as close as everybody could get, leave your cards and just everybody. We help everything out with food and go shut that little area down. That Vatican. D.C. is nothing but a copy of the Vatican in our country. And they control, we talking about 300, 400, 500 people control 300 million people. 10 miles, 10 by 10, control 300 million people. I'm going to repeat what I said before. They fooled the rest of the country into thinking that the Civil War involved them. It did not. The Civil War, the fight with the South, was against D.C. It was against D.C. And D.C. tricked the rest of the northern states that they called it to help them. Remember, I always talk about gangs of New York. Them Irish is coming off the boats, and they put them on another boat to send them to go fight in the South. Remember that part? As soon as them Irish, they would see men, they would march men to another boat, put some clothes on them, give them a pack, put their ass on another boat. That's what the gangs of New York showed. And then you had, and what's so funny, if you get into, I think it's Fredericksburg, you get into the Battle of Fredericksburg, you had Irish from New York fighting Irish that lived in South Carolina. You had Irish men fighting Irish men, none of them born in America, but yet they're fighting over here against each other. This is how dirty they were. This is how dirty they were. So yeah, you're right. You're right, homie. I definitely said that that's what should have been done. The stopping of government, not no show. And that's why they did that, because there was a lot of people saying the same thing. Let's go up there. Let's stop the government. Not that shit. Not that shit. That shit was a stage. That shit that happened on January was a stage. They staged it again. They got real killers here in America. And the way they tried to portray the people is like the killers. And that wasn't that. That wasn't that. Remember when they sent them killers to Haiti? Wasn't no cameras with them, was it? When they go in there and they do their thing, they don't. There's no cameras following people, so that didn't happen. It was nobody trying to kill nobody up there, other than they say these people. And one dude didn't even die. Then he died a couple of days later. So, New York won't allow people to get groceries without taking it. How the hell is that going to work when most of the blacks and Latin populations aren't involved? What they stopped Amazon groceries? They stopped Walmart groceries? I mean, right now they'll put it in your car. They'll take it to your house. What was the movie? Was it Black Box, where they was showing people they was just delivering, and the delivery people had antibodies? But that makes no sense. They got Amazon up there. You don't need to go to stores anymore. So why is that different? So they saying that they can't drop groceries off outside your house? I don't know how that would be legal. So you ain't got to go into the stores. You can order online. That's what they set up. So that stopped. That stopped. So that's interesting. Only destruction will become of this. Hey, casual sports fan, too many of them that have a voice but don't have no half of what they're talking about. Yeah, like the dude brought up, one of the guys brought up Donald Sterling. But to know the whole thing of Donald Sterling, the NBA was been trying to get rid of him because he was like the Detroit team. Long as he made money, he in LA, he was making enough money every year. So he didn't care if they won or lost. He was making money every year. So they hated him because he wouldn't spend money on them. So that's why they got him out. That was a total setup to get him out. Jerry Richardson, I think is his name, that I actually played for him. We played for the Carolina Storms, a semi-pro team in the early 80s. Because Don Maynard was one of the coaches. Jack Squire was one of the coaches. Richardson played with Joe Namath and them. He was one of the Jets that won the Super Bowl. But they did the same thing to him. Got rid of him for something very similar. But they wanted to get him out. They found a way to get him out because people don't give up. Sports franchise are generally go through families. It is rare for people to sell them like we see in sometimes. That's a very rare thing. I mean, the Bears been the Bears since 2023, 24, somewhere in there. And it's been through the family. It ain't even called the family name. It ain't even Hallis. It's McClaskey's, because one of the daughters married into that family. And so a different name owns them, other than there wasn't no Hallis to continue the name on. So it's not even the family name. His name, at least, was lost. I don't think he had any sons. Will this lead to the mark? But it might just be already. I think it probably could be. That's part of it. If you study it enough, you see that's what they're trying to push over is the mark. We see it every day. We see it every day, and that is they're trying to push that on people. They're definitely trying to push that part. So many people folding so easily, not many standing up. No, no. I mean, the time to fold was when they was offering cash for that shit. Sad how many people lost soap and never will wake up. This movement's trash. It's not. Yeah, and they took the word woke away. You know, woke used to mean a person that had be coming to his consciousness, coming to his awareness. That's what it used to mean, but now it means liberal, and that is wrong. But see, that's how they'll take a word and change it. That is how they'll take it and change it. Sleepers. That's what we used to call them, sleepers. You know, people that aren't aware, that are still stuck into this matrix kind of thinking. And now they made it mean purely liberal. And you see how they can take a word and distort it? It's like we were saying fake news before Trump was elected. But what does he say on his very first day? Oh, you're fake news. His people copy words. And you can't tell me they don't look and copy words. As I'm going to repeat this again. When I called Zach giddy, the next day I'm watching Fox News, and this bitch, it's a chick on there that uses the word giddy. I'd never heard it in 40 years, anybody on television, but the day after I say it, is somebody says it on television. So do you see how they pick up the words? They pick up the words and they try to find ways to use them. It's like, oh, we can put that in the system. Maybe people will parrot that. Oh, it just kills me when people still say, like, people will be like, well, you know, I was all around the world visiting all these places. But at the end of the day, I'm like, wait a minute. How did you go from visiting all around the world to the end of the day? Like, how did you get there? So 1 minute you're all around the world, but at the end of the day, so is this at the end of the day when you was all around the world, like one of the days when you was around the world? Or which day is this the end of? Oh, that shit just kills me. It is just the funniest shit in the world. It's like, what has that got to do with anything? Like, baby, will you marry me? Well, you know, at the end of the day, I'm going to say yes. Couldn't you just say yes? It had to be at the end of the day. You know, it's funny. Again, if the states broke up, now, I was in a professor's class in college when we were arguing to the point, was it illegal to succeed from the Union? There's some case law that technically says it's illegal. And that is one reason they gave Lincoln. But again, the war wasn't against all the other states. It was only against DC. That was the aim of the South, was the District of Columbia. So this is where they said we were separating from that, not the whole Union, just DC. But see, DC wants to tie all this in to them because look at the history. They didn't really have an army. Look at the Fredericksburg battle. They got killed in them early battles. They just didn't have an army. And then they tricked people kind of the same way they tricked people in World War II to get a big army. But they tricked people into joining them. Yeah, people are kind of lost out here. Wake up, sleeper. There you go. They flipped the word definition. Yeah. The mockery. Yes, Ismail, definitely. They're either needing a plunge pass to get to see the new Matrix movie. Oh, don't get me talking about movies. Now, the good movie to watch, and it's not a great, is Venom. The Venom versus I Can See the Toy. But the Venom movie, it's only an hour, like 90 minutes. It is a great movie just to zip through. Good time to me. That James Bond shit, I am still stuck at an hour. I got like another hour and 20 minutes to watch that shit. And I done watched it an hour, and I'm like, enough of this shit. I started watching the Venom movie. But James Bond, and it's like it gets me that 50-year-old dudes can just kick ass. How old is the James Bond, this character? I don't know too many 50-year-olds that can that can still just kick ass like that. But they found a guy that's 5'8", 5'7", 5'6", that can just kick ass. Iron if needing it. What is it? BLM and the ABCs all drove. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely BLM. They got so much money out of George Floyd, and none of the money really went back into the neighborhoods. None of it. They posted their flag 3 or 4 days later, and they got rich off it. Them founding members got rich off it. Now I think they pushed that brother away, but that one sister, she got rich off it. And you can't say that she didn't get rich off it. It was a money grab. That's all it was, a Soros-backed money grab. But yeah, it's them peoples is behind it. It's money grab. I'm just saying Soros about they again, people wasn't using black. Now you see how much they want to put black in because nobody was using African American. People stopped using that, and so they had to inject the black back in there, which means dead. I mean, it's the dead people. Baby, I'm not black. I'm colored. Gupta on his show had schooled his ass, calling out CNN, lied about him taking. Yeah, exactly, Moray, exactly. But I think they were still trying to put that out there. It's hard to believe any of this stuff is organic sometimes. They did put that out there, and they had CNN lying, and they got caught in a lie, and then they tried to quantify. You guys got to say that word, like quantify. To be honest, to tell the truth, it was quantifiers. But yeah, they made Don and they made Gupta look really stupid. Moon says no grandma killers. Next thing you look up, news Candace Owens starts saying it. So Phoenix trademarked that saying. Good for her. Good for her. Because they will. They'll hear our talking and they'll copy it. They'll definitely copy it. I mean, like the first time I heard somebody say, and I've said this before, but it was because really the first national story about freebasing was Richard Pryor. I think that was a way to introduce the rest of the country to freebasing, because before Richard Pryor set himself on fire, the streets wasn't really crazy about base like that. Wasn't really crazy about it. It wasn't a common thing that people based. More on the East Coast, some on the West Coast, but not nationally. So when Richard Pryor does that, base becomes a big word. In 1980, I'll never forget the little boy. The little boy was like, what they would do, they would go buy crack for these people. So this little boy was a crack addict, and I'm saying little boy, he was probably a 15, 16-year-old teenager. They went and bought him crack, and he smoked crack in front of him. I mean, this is what they did. And even though he's smoking the crack they gave him, they was like, well, how often do you smoke crack? And he was the first one to say 24/7, 365. And the lady was like, what does that mean? He was like, I smoke crack 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 years a day. The little boy broke it down. That was the first person I'd ever heard say that. Just think if he could have copyrighted that and the money he could have made, because he was the first one that I heard in 1980 to say it. Now it's pretty common saying, but he was the first one I've ever heard say it. And I'm pretty sure around the time John Lennon got killed, it was around that time. So it got to be 80, 81, 80. I want to say John Lennon got killed in 80. So around 80, first time I heard that. Maybe 80, 81, going into 81. Joe Rogan, he's controlled opposition too. He's controlled. He's been with them peoples for so long that you can't really think he's unique. You can't really think he's organic. Again, they have many actors playing many parts because they want to control the narrative. So always remember that they want to control the narrative. They don't like when they don't control the narrative. So they'll control the narrative, good or bad. As I was saying, I watched a thing about Hearst. You know, Hearst would put out different narratives from different papers. Sometimes he put different narratives out, again, to control the information. Like when the magazines came out, like the New Yorker and them kind of things, and he wasn't making money, he started making them because he was just doing hard news at first. Then they came out with the paper magazines. He started putting that shit out, would put a lot of bullshit stories and propaganda. You see that like in the late 30s, early 40s, they start putting out those little, not just the newspapers, but the little magazines. I know it's hard. Like the Sunday magazine part that comes in there, like Parade magazine, those kind of things. So they would put conflicting views owned by the same person. And so kind of got to look at it like that. Sportians used to be violent and competitive with each other, talking shit to the soft liberals. Came in talking about sportsmanship and being nice after a 7-game playoff series. I was talking to a dude yesterday. We was talking about how the NBA, it was common to see fights in the NBA in the 70s. In the 60s and 70s, it was very common. Very common. Maurice, the 1957 Rookie of the Year, Maurice. But like they flipped him on purpose and he landed on his head and it gave him a sleeping disease. I mean, that's how bad it used to be back then, where they was purposely hurting people. Maurice, he was helped by Jack Tynum, but it'll come to me. But he's like, I think he won rookie of the year in 57 or 58 in the NBA. Maurice something. But they would hurt people like that. But 60s and 70s, they would fight all the time. The best fight is to watch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kent Benson just hits him with a dirty elbow, and Jabbar broke a couple of his ribs. He turns, like, bends down, and Benson didn't sprint up court. He was kind of still standing there, and Kareem just, pow, broke his hand, but knocked him out, knocked him clean out, just caught him, boom. And, of course, the Rudy Tomjanovich fight, which broke his face. Well, so they say it broke his face. But that was common. It was common to watch basketball fights. Not anymore. They took that out. It's like they used that to get players out too, like Daryl Dawkins in the 76. Maurice Lucas wasn't a scorer, but Dawkins was, and Dawkins was a good defensive force. So Lucas played the goon part and got in a fight with Dawkins, so Dawkins would be put out the game. It hurt Dr. J's 76ers. Lucas wasn't scoring for Portland, so it didn't hurt Portland. He was a defensive player and a rebounder, but didn't hurt them. It hurt them not having Dawkins. And Dawkins was kind of young and stupid, and that probably was the script. Yeah. Peace, conservative. Hey, okay. Thank you, conservative. I know it's late. Maurice Lucas. Yeah. Maurice Lucas. Was that his name? Maurice Lucas? Maybe. Should have made a sports line. Hockey. Let them fight. Yeah, hockey, let them fight. Drop the gloves, and they go at it. Tabloids. Yeah, tabloids. Yeah, tabloids. That's what they later called. But at first, they was called magazines. They was called magazines because, like, the Parade is probably what everybody remember. That was one tabloid that you got sent in your Sunday paper. Parade, I imagine most people old enough to remember that. But yeah, they was called magazines too. But yeah, tabloids. At first was called magazines. Yep. Actually, clone athletes and celebs. That's a hard one to. Well, this is the thing. Caught myself saying that bullshit. This is what has to be considered: is people look alike. People really do. People really look alike. Now, we talked about Rihanna, and like instead of turning her out, you have lookalikes go to Dubai or go where these weirdos want these celebrities. Instead of, what happened to Marilyn Monroe and just she gets spread out by everybody, just one person. And some people say they think Marilyn Monroe was a trans man. Don't know. But there's so many people that you can have lookalikes. So do they really need the clones when people look alike? Not necessarily. Now, athletes, yeah, definitely raised. My investigation still shows LeBron James' daddy being Nate Thurman. I mean, there are just too many physical similarities. Nate was there. His mother was young, but with the no father narrative, look like they do. I think Zion falls under that too. Shaq falls under that as well. I remember Ricky Lake supposedly had Shaq's daddy on there. Well, this is Shaq's real dad because, dude used to be in the commercials, wasn't his real father. And we see that narrative too often. We see that narrative. Kobe's one of the few, but we see that narrative too often where these so-called stars, where they come from. So they're made. I mean, Ball, the Ball family, he told you, he said he got a tall volleyball athletic wife. He wanted to have children with them. And the children all came out tall. I mean, I can be looked at that in a similar way. My ex-wife ended up being 6'2". She's 5'11". When I met her, she just kept growing. She kept growing. And she ended up being 6'2". And all my shortest child with her is 6'4.5". My tallest is 6'7". My youngest one that puts his face in here, he's about 6'5.5". So all my children with her, but she didn't come from very coordinated people. Only my oldest with her is coordinated. He's the only one that really plays sports. So it's not always just tall. They got to be tall and kind of athletes themselves. So could be. Yeah, more shoving than fighting. Yeah, it's like they'll grab somebody. Like you still see some nasty grabs. Like last year, I think I showed some work of some nasty plays where people, running picks into people and stuff. So thank you, thank you, Mark. That's kind of you to say. What does it mean when you start seeing repeating angel numbers? It's funny. I gotta have my friend on. My friend is and maybe she'll be a good source for everybody to buy crystal. She's just starting her crystal business, and I'm gonna have her on. But she's always on Facebook posting these numbers, and so she loves the double ones, and she'll show the double twos. But what's funny is when you play pickleball, there's a point in the game where the call of the game is like, say I'm serving. So if I have one and the other team has one, and the game is basically just started, I'm the one because the way you score in pickleball is you only score when you have the possession. So if I mess up my serve, the other person, he becomes the two. He becomes the two. So it's just funny every time I hear the score 1-1-1. I'll say it 1-1-1. I always think of her, or I'll say 2-2-2. It is funny. I don't want to give a rushed answer. I would say that if you are trying to manifest and you see those repeating patterns, it might be favorable for you. I'd say that was the most I can tell you that you might get out of that. Some people just use it for extra little punch of energy. It's like, I'm vibing high today, so I'm seeing this, so I'm vibing high. That could be part of it too. But I really like to tie it into a little bit of manifesting, or that the how do I want to put it? That the ball could be in your court, that you could have momentum. You could have momentum for what you're trying to do. You could have momentum in manifesting. That's how a way I look at it too. Is that's how you could use it. That it's helping your momentum. Yeah, homie, I was just talking about that. Yeah, Kyrie is controlled opposition. There's nothing natural about what he's doing. He's told to play that part. They ain't said nothing about Nike dropping him, so he's getting paid by Nike. So under the table, they giving that dude bread. That dude, again, look who they picked to do it. Now they ain't been saying nothing about Bradley Beal, and I haven't been hearing about the young man in is he in Orlando? Is the young man the young man that's a preacher, or is he in Memphis? I want to say he's in Orlando. You ain't hearing a lot about them. They took the stand too, so I haven't heard that either one of them. But yet they keep Kyrie out there. Now the younger dude, they could fuck with his bread. They really could. But he sounds like he's a solid dude. He's got his own. He's a church person, so he has that to fall back on. Bradley Beal has made a lot of money, so that is like they can't really squeeze him. That's why it's so sad about LeBron. LeBron got more money than his family can ever spend, and he couldn't take a stand. I mean, that would have seemed organic for the power people to say, fuck this, and we're going to take a stand like a lot of the nurses are doing, it, a lot of the police about to do. Like, fuck y'all. Y'all need us. Like they was talking about firemen. If firemen walk off the job, you ain't going to go get some people that just know how to fight a fire. That's impossible. Firemen are more important than cops. Now, you can get anybody to patrol and carry a gun. We got paid security people. They're security people. As long as they ain't got no felonies, they can get these new jobs and carry a gun as long as they can shoot it straight a few times. When I was working a federal contract, all I had to do is my dudes shot a 38 and they had to shoot a 38 from 6-8 feet. And as long as they could hit the paper, they got to carry guns. I remember it was one dude that just got out the army, couldn't shoot a pistol worth of shit. It took him all day. We stayed out there for about 2 hours until he finally could just get all the shots on the paper. That's all you had to do. 6 shots on the paper. Didn't matter where. You had to just hit the goddamn paper. And you're only like no more than 8 feet away from it. Hell, most people's arms is 6 feet. I mean, the dude could not hit the paper worth of shit. Remember, I was just so bad. I was like, God damn, you just got out the army. Well, I've never shot a handgun. We only shot rifles. Yeah, that makes sense. 8 is apparently abundance. It turns sideways. Yeah. What is it called when it's turning sideways? There's a name for it when it's sideways too. Yeah, but it's motion too. Isaac, Orlando Magic, small forward. There you go. Yeah, Isaac, that's his name. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. Might be out of the league in a little. Yeah, well, I would think that it's going to be interesting if he can hang in there, if he made enough loot, if the church will put him up. Yeah, LeBron is a pussy. I agree. NBA players get a lot of power to make a stand, but sadly, it can't happen. Exactly. They got all the power. Like when they, how did I want to, LeBron, a few years ago, when they was about to lock him out, LeBron said, we'll go to gyms ourselves. Like Magic is one that really started doing this when they did not, and Isaiah Thomas benefited the most from it. When they stopped the team from going to the Olympics, they let the Olympic team, led by Isaiah Thomas, play against them in Magic and in Barnstorm, what it used to be called. But they played like 10, 11 games. And so I played in some of these tournaments where pros will have these tournaments, and it works in the summertime. Why do you think what's the league in LA became so popular? It's leagues like that everywhere. I've talked about that from the beginning of both of my shows. Is there's always been leagues. Isaiah Thomas killed the CBA, but the CBA was older than the NBA. It started before the NBA. It was called the Eastern League. It was older than the NBA. So it's always been leagues. It's always been proven. I mean, the Globetrotters never joined the league. They're trying to join the league now, but they never joined the league. And they played all over the world. That's the problem I have with Jackie Robinson. That is why some of the owners didn't want to integrate. They was letting people rent their stadiums and selling out. I mean, Bill Cosby said he went to a Globetrotter game, and the second game was an NBA game. He said soon as the Globetrotter game ended, everybody left. He said only a few hundred people stayed, which was a packed house for the Globetrotters when it was time for the NBA, because the NBA wanted some of that money. Because no matter they leave or not, they paid to get in there, and it was a double header. The NBA was getting some of that money too. But the European owners liked having, they would know that they would sell out. So when the European League would go away, they would let the Negro League teams come in and rent the place out. And if you study the Negro League, it was only a couple of places that had their own stadiums. If you imagine if they kept that, if Jackie would have said no, and all of them would have said no. I mean, we saw the same thing that happened in the NFL. I was talking to my friend earlier. We saw what the AFL did is the AFL started going to these black colleges. Remember, the first modern day quarterback to start in a professional football game is Marlon Brando with the Broncos. I think we talked about that before. He started a whole season. Their quarterback got hurt. I don't know if it was Jack Kemp or who got hurt, but he played quarterback for a whole season. But the AFL was the league that was bringing all these brothers in here. And all these teams, when USC went to Alabama and they beat Alabama in Alabama under Bear Bryant was trying to show these people, if you do not get us these people, the people that get these brothers is going to dominate. So you better let me start getting these people. I mean, Adolph Rump, which the 66 championship, the European brothers and the brothers won, which really it was the year before in Loyola. Loyola had 4 brothers start and 1 European. So it really was that Loyola team. But 65, they say all the brothers, okay. But Adolph Rump eventually was forced to get brothers because they could not compete. And sadly, the brothers should have kept staying in the black colleges and going to the what was called HBCs, or when I went, it was called black colleges. They should have stayed. It would have helped our people. It would have been a greater negotiated. It would have helped the schools to keep the talent here, and then we would have had to play them. So, infinity symbol. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Yep, infinity symbol. Yeah, it'd be organic, right? Right. Thank you, Ismail, for that too. Infinity. Yep. And tonight's Tennessee Ole Miss fans started throwing objects on the field. I know those fans don't do that kind of stuff at HBCU games, but we're supposed to be savages. Yeah, I never saw that either when I played. Never saw anything like that. People talking shit. The funniest thing is, my stadium. I played the first game in that stadium, and that place is like 40, almost 40 years now. Yeah, it is 40 years old now, so it's not new, but it's highly changed since I played in it. But I remember we had practice. We would have some bullshit Sunday practices, which I hated. But anyway, um, again, this is 20,000, because back then the stadium only held 20,000 people, but it's all brothers, all sisters, packed, 20,000 people. So the next day, of course, we get in the stadium early. A lot of people hung over, but we was in the stands, and we got into the stands, and we just, for some reason, I don't know who started it, but we was just sitting up on the liquor bottles. So we went on the away team. We was in the stands doing some shit, and we set up all the liquor bottles in the away stands first, and then we walked over. It's like, damn, because we was like surprised how many liquor bottles was in the stadium. And so we set them all up, and then we went to the home stands, and it was the same thing. It was liquor, beer bottles everywhere, and they didn't sell beer in the stadium. So we set them up. So by the time we was on the field practicing, we was like watched by almost 20,000 liquor bottles. It was some funny shit that we had did that. It was just funny once we set out. We was like, to see all these liquor bottles going up, in the stands. Are there any legitimate athletes not getting it for the same reason we are? Are they all? Yeah, all of them controlled. That's part of your contract. All of it, that's part of it, is that you have to be controlled. And as I've said before, people are like, well, why don't they tell after so many years? Again, if you play, I know in the NBA it used to be 6 years till you get pension money. So like Kwame Brown ain't gonna say nothing about his fixed games, because Kwame Brown is only 39. He got 10 more years till he hit 50 to get that pension money. And that pension money is something like he'll probably get 400,000 or 500,000 a year. Iverson, remember, Iverson is waiting on 50 million when he turns 50 or 55. And that's just from what Reebok invested for him. But he'll also be getting NBA pension money. So this is why you don't hear most players talk about it. And the other part is, these is lifelong connections. I've said that many nights. I'm repeating it. These are lifelong connections. If you make it high as college, I'm still friends with my teammates 40 years later. So this kind of thing doesn't end. It ain't just me. The friends most people make in college tend to be lifelong friends, and especially a small fraternity of football. Because one year you looking at a coach on the other team, before you know it, you and that coach might be on the same team. But as I've said many times, it is such a network. It's an unbelievable network that athletes have, and just playing athletics. You come across so many people. It is a vast network that can help you. And so people are not turning that away, and especially ex-players that are going to get pension money. But people just aren't going to turn that away. Can't go against the brotherhood, because if you out and in plain sight, they're going to kill you immediately after going against their agenda. That's a good point. We've seen that in the past. If you have tried to go against the agenda, but not just you, they go against your family. I mean, to win, you got to sacrifice your family. That's what I was talking about my cousin Tony and his son just found hanging. You think that was organic? That this young man felt so bad? Or you don't think it was some kind of influence, or he was taken out? We see this time and time again. I mean, Michael Jordan is the greatest. You believe that Michael Jordan story, that his dad went and took a nap? Now, how many people do you know just get robbed? And how many people do you know in the South don't carry a little pistol? So you're going to take a nap and they just bust your windows open while you're taking a nap? Most people in the South that would drive and take naps on the side of the road carry pistols with them. So you believe this dad who got money in a Lexus, excuse me, and that's after Michael won 3 championships. But you see this time and time again. Remember Mike Tyson. Remember they say Mike Tyson's daughter got choked on one of the ropes from the treadmill. You know, the treadmills would have had the ropes. Remember they said that his daughter got strangled like that? Gus D'Amato, his first handler. Remember, he died before Tyson was champion. But Tyson's had a 4 or 5-year-old daughter. Remember that? I mean, this is common practice. So if you win and you got to sacrifice your family, what do you think is going to happen if you try to go against them? You already got to give up a family member from winning. You win your career. So you know what they would do to you or your family if you start exposing them. I mean, this is old. This is nothing new. This is nothing new. Like, you can look at that mafia shit to show you how they do stuff. So many pro athletes have generations of pros in different same sport bloodline. Oh yeah, the names are like, I see the Westbrooks. I can go back into Dickie Westbrook that played at A&T. Ratliff. I had a cousin, Ed Ratliff, that played at Long Beach State, and Ed played for the Pistons. But it's Ragsdale. George Ragsdale went to A&T. It's the same names you seeing. These same names you see over and over and over again. So yeah, you see these same names. Why do you think the pros bring their children around? Bring their children to batting practice. Bring their children to practice. That is the start of their initiation, start of being around it. It's a thing that said, this is the odds they give. They gave a thing of the odds. It was like almost a 9 out of 10 children athletes, athletes, children would make it to the pros. Now, Michael Jordan, they wasn't going to let his sons make it. They just wasn't. They wasn't going to let his sons make it. But he gave up to daddy. And the other part was his sons wasn't going to make it. They didn't get tall as him, which is odd because none of them. Larry Jordan is what, 5'8"? The daddy was 5'9". I think James Jr. is like 5'9", but yet he grew to be 6'6". How's that? When he was in 10th grade, I think he was only tall as Larry in 9th, 10th grade. David Robertson commits to the Navy. He is 6'1". And you can look this up. When David Robertson committed to the Navy, he was something like 6'1", and he grew to be 7 foot. But when he first went into the Navy, he was like 6'1", and then grew almost 10, 12 inches. So Mike had to make that sacrifice to win another 3. If LeBron never wins again, that means he ain't going to make the sacrifice necessary. I think I did a show on that years ago, or maybe this past year, on who is going to be the first in his family to go. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be his mama. That's going to be the first to go, is the mama. I don't think they're going to take out the wife. I think it's going to be his mama, which is sadly. But you see what Steph Curry's going through. Instead of killing one of them, the parents going through the messy divorce. Remember the messy divorce, talking about this. She's a freak and he's a freak too, and he cheated for, but that was his shamey ritual. And I don't think they're going to let him win another one either, because his shit, Steph Curry is the most ridiculous. You can see how they put him together. I mean, it's technology they use now. I mean, Jordan, it's been around since 85, but you see he clearly benefited. I wish I would have, and maybe I'll edit and go back and find one of those early games, his first MVP season. They were beating teams by 20 points in the first quarter. Remember those games? He was shooting them half-court shots, and they would be up by 20 in the first quarter, and they wasn't even playing in the third, fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, he wasn't even playing. The starters didn't even have to play. That was their thing, is let's blow them out early, put the games out of reach. That was how they scripted. Hey, run it up. How they do that. Do you think we're controlled by spirits, good and evil? Well, it's not that it's a hard question. It just is. That would mean different things to different people. There are attachments, and it's not necessarily a spirit in the way you would think it's a spirit. It is like just a negative kind of energy that can be attached to you. And that's the monkey on your back. So I don't know if that's necessarily a spirit, but it is a type of attachment that you can pick up that will slow your progress. Now, what you said, did you say good and evil? What is like good and evil is hard to kind of say, because the perception of evil for some is different than others. Like I could show you sigils, and you might like this book right here. Some people could look at this book and say this book is evil, and the sigils is evil. Others would just see them clearly as just keys. So can't really get caught up in good and evil, because evil is a construct in some ways. Now, wicked is a different difference. Wicked is something different, but good and evil is kind of the same. You know, it's like they put the teeter-totter of weight and they put it here. It's like, remember, they would put the devil on the shoulder and the angel on the shoulder, but the thing of them, they're both on the shoulder. Remember, they would try to put the angel is good and the devil is bad on the shoulders. And I know that's probably a 70s thing, 60s, 70s thing. But so there are negative energies that can attach to you, no doubt, that can slow your progress. Because again, if you don't know how to release that kind of thing, you can bring that thing home and it will make your home environment negative if you don't know how to cleanse yourself before you go up in your home. Now, there are people that can call that shit and they know this the source of it, and they know what's expected out of it, and people accept some of that stuff, and they don't really look at it as good or evil. They look at it as going to help what their aim is, or what they're trying to do, or what they're trying to accomplish. Now, somebody else might look at it as evil. So it's kind of a hard thing, but it's possible. Yeah. LeBron and Westbrook, Dwight might be having too much fun. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Strong to serve it. Also played with suspect Bosch and Wade. Yeah, we see Wade. You know, we see what Wade and Wade. See, again, Wade didn't have to kill anybody. I'm surprised Wade's ex-wife didn't get killed. I thought that was the one they was going to go after, but they letting her live. But you see what they had to do. They had to give the son up. They had to turn the son over. Magic had to go through the same thing. They started hitting Magic's son with them hormones and shots probably when he was a baby. Because remember, when the problem they had when Magic came out and said he had HIV is Cookie was pregnant. So they had to hurry up and scramble and say, we tested Cookie and she doesn't have it. This chick was only like a month or two pregnant. She wasn't pregnant. When Magic came out and said that he had HIV, she was only a couple months pregnant. I think at the time she was only a month pregnant. How didn't she have it? So he just went in there one day and that was like after he had sex with the wife? Not very likely. Cappy. You ever talk about Amp says Steph was making unbelievable shots the other day. There you go. Amp. You ever talk about Cappy, WNBA? Yeah, the WNBA is a hard watch. It's Brittany Griner. I mean, it's no way you can look at that person and think that this is all women's basketball. You got Sue Bird that's bald as I am. Sue Bird hair be way back here. She's got male pattern baldness. I mean, I did a video, maybe it was on my other channel, that showed their commercial. And it was like, if anybody remembers my old channel before they took it down, I showed 2 or 3 years ago, maybe it was like 18 season or 19, I showed a commercial and all them women suspect. Candace Parker, suspect. Very suspect. Remember, she had a brother that played college ball too. I can't think of his name, but it's not Jamari. He's from Chicago. Or no, that's Jamari. Is Jabari Parker? No, I can't remember, because she is from Chicago, but that's not her brother. Hey, Moray, what's that? Don't get notification. Hey, Sean, I'm sorry about that. Moray. Gabriel Union wears the pants in the relationship. Well, she's his handler, though. She's his handler and she's the son handler. That's why when he came out, she was with him, remember, when she came out. And that's another suspect person. Remember, they caught that person trying to say it had a baby. People's like, wait a minute, you ain't big pregnant. How you just have a baby? You ain't. The people bust her out. And because she was trying to pull it off like, here, I'm in the hospital, just had this baby. People's like, wait a minute, chick, you ain't been pregnant. They flamed her. So she said, no, I went to the hospital. No, this chick went to the hospital, jumped into bed and said, look at the baby I just had. and people flamed her so much she had to admit that they went and adopted a baby, and she was holding it because she was tired. Yeah, because she was trying to pull it off. People didn't go for it. Cappy Pondexter. Oh, okay. Oh, what she was saying about LeBron trafficking, that's a hard thing. You know, they've swept that under the rug. They talking about the girls that got put out for fighting. So that's a hard thing to understand. Will that be how they take LeBron down? I would say they're making so much money off him. I can't see them trying to cut that out. I really don't. It would almost be like cutting out Tom Brady, the money he making, and LeBron makes other corporations more money than Tom Brady does. Because remember, Tom Brady ain't got a big shoe contract like LeBron. So I don't think that's reckless. Why? Again, if you're saying child pushing children type of trafficking, why her? Why this doodly looking person? Why her? You know, now was he her handler? Very well could be. I know for sure he was Trae Young's handler, because what was it? When Trae Young was in college, you know, Trae Young went to all his camps and stuff, was in that AAU circuit that LeBron circles around. So I'm thinking LeBron was probably one of Trae Young's first handlers. But to LeBron James, again, I wasn't impressed with Trae Young in college. Not at all. Not enough to think when he went pro that he was going to be successful. But I remember hearing LeBron was like, one day Trae going to need to count his money. Here's an undersized person that had 4 or 5 good college games at the beginning of the season, didn't win it all, didn't have a good tournament, didn't have a second part of the season. There's 20 games, not just 5 in college. Well, almost 30. And he only played good in the first 5. But that meant he was going to make his money. So that just shows you. But LeBron was probably his Anthony Parker. Her brother's Anthony Parker. Okay. Yeah, it's not a Jamari Parker. It's not him. Same with Tamika Wright, Eazy-E's wife. Easy got it, Tamika. Yeah, but Tamika didn't exactly. Yeah, Anthony Parker is the brother. Thank you. Why do fans need to know athletes' relatives died? It's a message to everybody. When they kill a relative, that's a message to all of them. Just like we see the award shows, we always see, you know, ex-actors, ex-music people dying around award shows. It sends out a message to everybody that this is still going on. This is still being practiced. So it's kind of like a shock wave that's sent to all of them. So all of them take notice. And the casual fan kind of hears this, but it's the more to tell them, like, you got to stay on code. You got to do the things the way they're supposed to be done. Durant made up any sacrifices his career because of the top of my head. I can't think of any. I can't think of any either. But we know his mother. I don't think we know his father. Because remember, he was crying when he got the MVP. He was thanking his mother. I don't know about his father. So I know he's a DC guy. Yeah, he's out of DC. So I don't know about his father. But it's like saying Denzel didn't wear the dress. But remember, Denzel got beat from behind in Glory, which is basically sodomy. Like when he goes to steal the shoes and comes back late, they showing you him being sodomized basically in Glory. The pain from the back, same as sodomy. So no, he didn't have to. And then he played the stupidest gangster in the stupidest. Training Day was the stupidest movie, one of the stupidest movies of all time. The most stupidest cop ever. Like on the first day, you're going to tell a dude your whole operation, the guy you just met, but you tell him about your whole operation, and the only safeguard you got is to say he got high. Well, drug test him. And then instead of you killing him, you let some dudes kill him, and it's just, the shit was just beyond stupid. But you could be right, homie. I don't think Durant has got anything yet. That's a good point. Something to watch out for. I thought Chris Tucker saved his soul until I saw he went to Epstein's spot with the Clintons and them people. Chris, doesn't matter that they go to church afterwards. They do it before. Day, Mike Epps. I think Mike Epps went to that island too. Jabari Parker is just like Candace. They both from Chicago, but I'll say Anthony Davis and Candace would be more related. I'll say that because They were both from the Shy and light skinned. That's funny, Lorenzo. You know that's funny. Jabari Parker's people was Mormon folks, black Mormons, and yeah, but it's a dude again. Like they could almost call Jabari like Kwame. Here's a dude he got hurt right off the bat, who was projected to be a superstar, but he didn't get far. Now he's a journeyman. So he ain't no different than Kwame. And I bet people ain't calling Jabari Parker a bust. Look at their careers. The careers are very similar. Probably Kwame Brown's consistent career is longer. But they ain't calling Jabari Parker a bust. And wasn't he the top person drafted? Wasn't Jabari Parker the top? The funny thing is they brought Ben Simmons back in. And they said that him and Doc was cussing each other out, but it doesn't erase the fact that, all them scouting reports was coming out saying dude don't like playing defense, dude can't shoot. I mean, if this was American, that they was looking to go in the league, if they said, wait a minute, why should he be number one? He can't shoot and he doesn't really play defense. Who would pick him number one? Nobody, no American child would get picked like that. I think the last person like that was Dennis Rodman. But remember, Dennis Rodman was scoring 30 in college and getting 20 rebounds in college. So that guy never did. So Ben Simmons he don't care about his game. He ain't tried to prove it. I mean, a lot of it's scripted. But again, the guy doesn't have the skill. He never had the skill. He didn't have the skill. He's never had that in this game. I don't think there's anything they can do to make him a shooter. I could be wrong because, again, when all you have time to do is practice on your game, and they can make shots go in, we know. I was just talking about Curry, how they made shots go in. Durant sacrificed his adopted brother. Yeah, I think I do remember that. Thank you, strong discernment. Denzel also got shot in the ass for that Oscar. That's a good point. Hey, Shawana, I was dreaming my sugarite turned white, wear it around my neck on a silver chain. Woke up and this fell off my neck. Interesting. Wow. Let me see. I was dreaming my sugarite turned white, which there is white in it. I wear it around my neck on a silver chain and woke up and it fell off my neck. Interesting. But you dreamt about it. Wow. That's good that it's not too strong because some people sugarite could be too strong. And I can't really see that it doesn't sound like you had a distressed dream. But yeah, it's definitely sounds like you're connected with it. But if you have bad dreams, then don't sleep with it. Put it in another room. But if it's just that sounds kind of mild. But it turned white. Well, let me see. It's a piece right here. Because there's actually, you can see, let me get a little better light on it. This is my cube. There we go. It's always flakes in it too. And pyrite. So part of it's white. But not all the way white. It's carbon. This is mostly carbon. Interesting. But it doesn't sound like that distress you. I would just say if the dream distress you, sugarite is kind of high vibration. So Chris wore a dress too. Yes, he did in that movie where they're in the blimp in space. He does. Yep. But remember, Dave Chappelle wore a dress in Men in Tights. So don't believe that he left the show because he didn't want to wear the dress. He wore a dress in Robin Hood, Men in Tights. He wore a dress. A lot of the conscious community are part of the Freemasons. Yeah. Can't argue with that. Do you think Kyrie is generally holding out as controlled? Yeah, it's controlled, CJ. It's controlled. CJ Jordan is definitely controlled. Yeah, definitely controlled. Last night, no dream, but the silver chain broke in half the next day. Woo, that's kind of powerful. Silver chains are heavier. This one's really heavy. Like gold ain't heavy. Silver is heavy. That's why I stopped wearing this one when my neck was hurt because it's heavy. And this pendant is really heavy. But wow. I guess look at the gauge that you're sleeping with, because sometimes when you sleep with smaller, thin chains, it's easier to break when you sleep with it. Most silver is pretty durable, so that's interesting. Could be possible it didn't like the chain too, and want you to get another one or get that one fixed. I would say switch chains. Yeah, switch chains. Yeah, might not like that chain, so switch chains if you can. If it's not too much of an expense, I would say switch chains or get that one fixed, clean it. Yeah, that might if you know if you can if it's not a bad expense, you can clean it, get it fixed. Because most places to I mean, if you break it in here, some chains is you can't fix in there. But if you broke it in the clasp, you can get that fixed fairly easy. But might want to switch chains. That's what it could be. Moray says, "What do I think?" Let me see. Oh yeah, a lot of conscious agents indeed. What I think about reptilians? Um, I think Carl Sager wrote East, is it Gardens of Eden or East of Eden? He wrote a book, and he was the first person that put a picture that kind of went into Jupiter's arising. Now, remember, in Jupiter's arising, they show the reptilians being subservient to the Europeans, or some people might want to call them tall white Nordics. You know, a lot of these aliens go by their tall white grays. There's a type of Nordic that's a tall white gray, but it's a tall white Nordic looking thing, and that's kind of what Jupiter rising. But I bring that up is because they show you that the reptilians lost to them, whatever that is, that they lost, that they were subservient. But getting back into Carl Sagan, Carl Sagan is, and others, he hints at that they lost too, but he gives a representation. I guess that's where I was going with it. He gives a representation, the first representation I saw of an alien person. He gives that in that book, and I think it's called East of Eden that he wrote, but it was about a dude who wrote the Cosmos. Again, the Big Bang theory comes from the Catholic Church. But it appears like they lost. Maybe that's Wes Paneri's work that shows, like Wes Paneri, part of his theory is that when the reptilians got defeated, that's where you see a lot of the dinosaur looking things, is when they got defeated, that they did have a time on the earth and they got defeated. And what you're seeing is, and what's left is pockets of them that were here before we came here. So it's nothing that I don't really resonate on a lot of that. A lot of that ain't around me. I'll say this though, I run into non-humans all the time, and I've said this before. They're not as embarrassed as they used to be on the people that can see them. They're just part of it now. They're just part of the country now. How long have I been going? Oh, that long? What time is it? Okay, so just look, there are a lot of non-humans that's been here. I mean, they try to tell you that the Neanderthals and Bigfoot and the Yetis, but they're always telling you that, you know, these different kind of humans still exist. I mean, it's hard to believe that these little men, that just all of them died at one time. When I've talked about we was talking about Russell Westbrook, he got that Neanderthal head that they show you. You notice that? He's got that plate. You know, what was his name? Lieutenant Worf. Remember, he had the turtle head. But Westbrook has a Neanderthal face. So what they call a Neanderthal and the impressions of it, you see humans got that. Because Westbrook clearly has that high, deep brow that they show Neanderthals have. Look at Russell Westbrook. And you see Europeans have that kind of look too. So I would say that there's a bunch of different type of non-humans that are just part of society. Now, when are they going to boo and say they're here? It seems like, again, it's going to be the government coming out with it. So nothing to alarm yourself, because they already been here. So they needed to blood suck you, they already would have done so. It makes me think, though, like children missing. What you have to understand about what's going on at the border is children are missing. They're pumping children like never before. Now, who demands these children like that are coming over? That's kind of hushed. I mean, hell, under Obama, 1,500 at a time missing, something like that. And that's, logistics. That takes cooperation to move those kind of people. But the demos seem to be, that's part of what's being pumped is children coming over here, and these children be disappearing, no doubt. So it's open season for that. It's really open season. They talking about all these adults coming over, but children at a high rate. And there's this is a business now. It's a business of bringing them children over here. So for all these purposes, different purposes. Yes, they still using DC to push an agenda. I just checked because I know I gave up some blood by now. Kyrie will be playing back in a month, probably gonna cave in. Hey, Mario, what's your zodiac sign? Cancer, and my name is 8 Wind. Remember Float On? Float On. That's one of the funniest songs. Gemini, my name is Larry, and I love everything and everybody. Float on. I mean, that was the only words to the song. Dude come up and do his little his singing rap and what his sign is, or what did the rap sign? How did Melly Mel go? What's your favorite zodiac sign? Is it Capricorn? No. Is it Scorpio? No. When is it? When is it? And back in the disco days, hey, baby, that'd be the first thing that somebody would ask you. What's your sign? Oh, I'm so-and-so. Oh, I get along with so-and-so. It's like that would spark an interest. Oh, I get along with them. That used to be a thing in the disco era in the 70s, kind of tailed off a little bit in the 80s. The Dramatics had a song, I ain't going by those stars in the sky. I'm only going by the stars in your eyes. Oh. Yeah, never had a problem with it. Do they look alike? Not in every aspect. No, they like I said, I talked about weeks ago about they brought I guess I met this girl when she was younger, but she was a light-skinned sister, but obviously an alien. I mean, it's funny when I would tell my sons that they kind of laugh because she's a stripper and a successful stripper. She had a decent body for a stripper, but clearly an alien. But again, I think she has European one or the other, and a melanated one or the other. So, but she's like a. I'm trying to think compared to me. No, not really darker. More of a kind of I say we were about the same complexion, but she had like a dull, like slightly darker than me, but dull. Does that make sense? It's like, yeah, like slightly darker, but dull looking skin. Like when they call somebody yellow, she was almost like not much darker than me, but more dull yellow looking. But if you saw her, I should get a picture of her because she's on Snapchat and all that shit. But definitely an alien. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This chick is a melanated person, but she's definitely an alien. Yeah. Do you think they will eventually reveal themselves as now humans? Oh yeah, it's no way to get around it. They're getting caught. They've been preparing us. Remember, they did the holograms, and people are like, "Oh, look what happened!" But they was holograms again. I did a video on the other channel, maybe this channel beginning, the double rainbows. Remember how they was doing the double rainbows a few years ago? All hologram. It was like I took pictures of these double rainbows, and I saw somebody else around the country, another part of the country, showing a picture of the same double rainbow, and it was a hologram. And so they've been testing, and this is the thing is, that's why I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and say that there's an aliens here and they want to give us they've got the answer to this thing going around. You just take the alien medicine and everybody's going to be okay, and we can go back to whatever. Don't be surprised if that happened. And don't be surprised if to convince us of the alien that the alien is able to sit down and his head pops off and his head wanders around the room and he sits back down. I mean, that's how silly they are. That's how silly silly they can do things. Don't be surprised if you see all that. Because, whoa, that was a strong piece of tobacco spit. Soothing to the throat, though. The younger generation would know about that song because of the Fresh Prince, the episode when Jazz got married. Okay. Russell Westbrook, non-human ass, stay talking to fighting fans in the streets like he's so tough while he out here go wearing dresses with his handlers. Yeah, that was some sad stuff. But it boded well for the Lakers season, but it just showed you he was down for whatever. Here's a funny story. I had one of my best friends just got out of prison. He had been in prison 10, 11 years. And we were taking movies back. We were taking movies back. And it just happened to be, he was like, he asked me to grab the movies and hand them up. And so it's just natural, again, it's Blockbuster. It was just natural to look at the movies. And so I was looking at the movies, and one of the movies was called Boomer Anal. And I like tapped my wife. I kind of elbowed her, and I had her look because she wasn't paying attention. And she looked, and she just blurted out, Boomer Anal. She just blurted it out. I gave him to him. And then later, his girl, like, remember the song was Down for Whatever? Remember that was a song, I'm Down for Whatever? And I remember his girl was like, I ain't gonna say my friend's name, but she's like, so I'm down for whatever. And I remember telling my wife after we left, like, yeah, you see why they was watching that Boomer Anal, because she's down for whatever. But I remember my wife was like, I elbowed her, and I was just thinking she was gonna read it. She's like, Boomer Anal, she just bust out. And he's like, thanks. He told my ex, like, thank you for busting it out. But it was kind of funny. I think LeBron's sticking it. That's funny. It's definitely insecure. He is. He's not where he wants to be, and he feels that up under LeBron he can be, so he's playing the role that it takes to be out there. I don't remember Nick Van Exel starred out there, Eddie Jones. The one dude, what was his name? The left-hand dude, he had a whack rap video, but I don't remember none of them dudes wearing a dress, and they was able to be successful out there. None of them dudes won. None of them dudes won a championship, but they were able to be successful without wearing a dress. But my name is Lorenzo Abatores. I am a Kyrie type of brother that's like no other. Float on. Who to believe anymore? This is a prison plan, or is it all a lie? That's a good question, and I did have a little research that I would share this with you. Let me see if this phone's got enough. Nope, not that. That's a great. Let me find this stuff. Segue into this. I'll find this and then I'll read it, and that kind of answers your question. Let me see if I can find it. Right here. The name of the topic, or the name of this scientific journal, is the name of the paper would be, How Do I Know I Am Not the Only Conscious Being in the World? And it's called solipsism, solipsism, SOLIPSINSIM, also called the problem of the minds, lurks at the heart of science, religion, and art. It is a central dilemma of human life, more urgent arguably than in the inavailability of suffering and death. It truly troubles us more than ever during this plague-ridden era. Socialism technically is an extreme form of skepticism, at once utterly nuts and irrefutable. It holds that you are only conscious. It holds that you are the only conscious being in existence. The cosmos sprang into existence when you became sentient. It will vanish when you die. As crazy as proposition seems, it rests on a brute fact. Each of us is sealed in an impenetrable prism cell of subjective awareness. Even our most intimate exchanges might as well be carried out in Zoom. And anybody that's watched me for any time, where you live does not exist to me. What is the double slit experiment? It only works when people are watching it. None of these houses and apartments around me exist unless I'm looking at it. So far as you guys see, the only thing that exists with me to y'all is this wall and this mic. That's it. And that's basically it in a nutshell. This thing can't be real. Like I was talking about how dudes look the same. Remember I was saying I played with a European cat that reminds me of all these brothers I hoop with. I told you I would be cool with him. He stopped me in the store the other day. There's so many brothers that just the same body, the same mannerisms. I played today with a dude that looked like my cousin. A little older, but I mean, basically same size. The way their beard was, looks like my cousin. Slightly older. And I don't know, maybe the same age, but this can't be a coincidence. It just can't be. So it just, and it, like I was saying earlier, people look alike. If you travel around the country, I don't hear anybody talking about that really. But if you travel around the country, you see people look alike. Richard Pryor talked about when he was in Africa, he saw people that look like Americans, which probably not. It was a joke. But he was saying, because like I'm gonna go off a little second. They were showing Ali in the PBS thing when Ali went to Africa. There's a picture of Ali giving the Nazi salute. Though none of them Africans look like him, but I mean it really doesn't. So none of them Africans look like him. But that Ali went over there to do the Afro-American thing. That's why Ali toured Africa. It was the Back to Africa thing. But people look alike. So if people look alike, why is that? Now, you can find your name. When I was born, there was no one else that had my name until I was an adult other than my son. Do you know how many people have my name? I got cousins now that have my name. There was one that played, he played up in Boston College. You look up my first name, it goes to him. And do you know how many more people have since have my name? But when I was born, nobody had my name. I mean, the first 30 years of my life, no one had my name until my son was born. Now my name is a common name amongst the family. It's a lot of Bryans, a lot of Brian Makins. So they're running out of names. They're running out of names. They really are. Remember the African name period? Remember that in the 80s, you got the names like people make jokes of Soniqua. But what it was, when people make jokes of them names, what people were doing was not necessarily African names. They was tired of naming George, John, and Don. People was tired of them names, and they didn't want to name them children all these European names. That's what that is. And I know people make funny of calling it, what does Brother Neek say, Bon Chiqua, and make those kind of things. But people in the 80s were tired of these European names. So they started making up their own names, which they try to hate on that. But I think it was a brilliant thing. It was breaking that cycle. I don't want to name my son John. I want to think of some letters and call him that. And I know a lot of us make fun of that, but to me, that was really a brilliant thing that they did. People say, that's why it was attacked. That's why them type of names was attacked, is because it broke the norm. They got tired of naming people after these Europeans. In the 80s, you see that greatly. What was my ex-niece's name, or my ex-wife's daughter? Sean Dyke. Her name was Sean Dyke. Yadi was what was his real name? Yathico or some stuff like that. But his mother didn't want them European names. And that's, as much as we make fun of that, that's what you got to keep in mind. It was to break that curse almost of the European names. And here I am. All my children have Irish names, like all of us, like all 8 of my children except Camille. No, I even think Camille is. Like all my children's names are pretty much Irish names. Like 2 of my children I didn't name. Like my son Cameron, that's the clan my family comes from. The few Irish people we do have come from that clan. And my son Devin. It's funny. Their mother said that they were naming those 2 of my children, and yet they have Irish names. For the past, I've been hearing folks tell me that there's a person that's a city that's east of my where it looks like me, but I'd never see him. Like one of my cousins, we talked on Facebook, and she was like, your grandfather and my grandfather looked like brothers, and they was like first, second cousins. But they were saying that's how much they looked alike, and they was first, second cousins. I'll say this, and this shows you who your people are. One thing that I know, I can look at like my tribe of people. I can look at people and know they related to me, especially Macons. We all got this like it's a face that like these cheekbones like this. I've been around the country now. I can look at people and say, yeah, this person comes from the same tribe I come from, and I don't mean one of them tribes in Africa. I mean these American tribes. But I can look at people and tell when they ain't part of my tribe, especially my dad's family. I really have a great, I guess you could call it a great people radar to see that. But I really have it. But you should be able to see that too. You've looked at your families, and as you go out, you can see people. And I don't mean like your area where your grandfather or father might have creeped, which could be true in some instances. But it's like people of your family will look alike. People of the tribe that you came from will look alike. And I don't mean no African tribe. See, you see a name in a text and you already know ain't no old folks with that name or vice versa. There you go. Names have power. Very much so. Very much so. Very much so. I'm trying to think what my name means. Because like my youngest is named Keelan, and we found that in the Irish magic book. We actually found that in the Irish magic book, but this is how small the world it is. I have a cousin that's been stationed in England, and he married an Irish girl, and they named their son the same way. It's spelled differently, but their son is now his last name isn't the same. He is my aunt's child, so he has his father's name. I think I can't even remember their last name. Yeah, I do. I'm not gonna say it, but yeah, he has a Keelan. So we both have Keelans, and I think they're like the same age. So what's the odds of that? Two Keelans around the same age. But yeah, definitely words have power. It's a very expensive book, Power Words, that cost a nice little penny, but it tells you the power words and then magic words kind of too. The names that got Qui, Quia, Woon, they're actually indigenous American names. Like my name, my nickname has been Toby, and Toby is an American name. It's not a European name. They try to say it comes from Tobias, but it doesn't. It's just like Dicey. I'm related to. I'm the fifth. The fifth direct descendant of Dicey Heathcock. Dicey is an American name. So that bullshit that Malcolm X said that we don't know our names, that was propaganda. That was controlled opposition. I'm not black, but get treated like I'm a black person. I've always gotten along with black folks. I wonder if I was black in a past life. That's interesting. But it's like the soulfulness of people. That's all. I mean, what you really are looking at is a culture. And if you get along with the culture, it's not hard for people to get along with a culture. So yeah, this is called solipsism. Solipsism. You experience your own mind every walking second, but you can only infer the existence of other minds through indirect means. Other people seem to possess consciousness, perceptions, emotions, memories, intentions just as you do, but you can't be sure they do. You can only guess how the world looks to me based on my behavior and utterances, including the words you are reading, but you have no firsthand access to my inner life. For all you know, I might be a mindless bot. Natural selection installed in us the capacity for so-called theory of mind, a talent for instituting other emotion and intentions, but we have a counter tendency to deceive each other, to fear we are being deceived. The ultimate deception would be pretending you're conscious when you're not. So that's how a non-human would come at you. So here's another one. Personality traits associated with hallmarks of Alzheimer's. So what it basically says is people that are negative all the time and Debbie Downers tend to get Alzheimer's. So the more positive outlook you have on life, it lessens your chances of getting Alzheimer's and dementia, is basically what it's stating in this article. So it's like it helps you to be positive. It helps you to be positive. And that's why we've got all this fear program going. The longer they can keep you in fear, the more they can keep you in a negative vibration. That's why, think about the shot now. Like, it ain't enough that you gotta that you tripping to pay your bills, you tripping to have a good relationship, you tripping to raise your children. That ain't enough. Now they want to kill your likelihood by bringing all this up, and fears around the corner. I mean, that's the psyop that they got going. So it's hard to have a positive attitude. So trying to see what's another part in here. And that was about the part of it. This is the other point I want to bring up too. Let me see if any sociopaths were neglected as children. Crap. Jumping around. Here we go. I want to bring that up. I can answer. Most sociopaths were neglected as children. But remember, the imbecile sociopath is what was raised in America. That is like where the bloodlust comes from. American was just a prison colony, as was Australia, more so. More prisoners were sent to America. More English prisoners were sent to America than was sent to Australia. See, we study and they tell you that it's just Australia that got all the prisoners. No, more prisoners came here. So when we come up to Bacon's Rebellion, they found out that the poor people and the melanated people was working together. And so there was no buffer zone for the elites. And so the elites created the imbecile psychopath. Again, read the book 400 Years of Class Distinction, or Poor White Trash. That's the popular name of it. Read that book. She explains it very beautifully how they've raised these people. And that's why you had all these people willing to go to Germany to kill people. I mean, they have kept a thing of imbecile psychopaths. And people, when you talk about MK Ultra, you're talking about classes of these people and why it's so easy for them to kill. As I said, if you watch the Ken Burns thing about Vietnam, you was hearing brothers talking about killing. It wasn't so easy. They had to get used to the killings. They talked to them Europeans. It was like, well, after a while, killing became easy. Never heard a brother veteran say that. World War II, Korea, or Vietnam. Never heard one say that. It was easy to kill. But here's this European dude right after Vietnam, 74, 75, because I think we got out in 72. He said it was easy to kill. He was talking about his experience. It was easy for him to kill. So I'm not saying I disagree with you, homie. Fear isn't real, only danger. There you go, homie. Nelville Goodert. I don't know that name offhand. You ever seen magnet grip gloves or rigging in person? The magnet gloves, one dude copied because Lorenzo, did you show the thing on one of my videos of the grip gloves and the ball and all that? I think one of you did in here. Well, someone did. And so in person, never had seats that good. Not yet. The Viking game, I didn't. But yeah, definitely the basket. I've watched Timberwolf games where I could tell the basket, but fires grip gloves in person. That's a good question. I'm trying to think when I had good seats, because in a live game, you really have to have good seats to really see the catches that clearly. Can't say. Let me see. When I was at the U, was probably the best seats I've had in the last 10 years. We saw the Vikings in Miami. And I don't think I charted it. That's a good question. No, I haven't had. You have to have really good seats. Not to give an excuse, but to see that during the game, I guess you got the board. Now, I went to the game 2 weeks ago, the Cleveland game. Wasn't really a lot of catches that game. I don't think Beckham only caught one curl. And I didn't go to that game. I was going to say that I didn't go to that game. No, I haven't. I can't say I have. Can't say I have. Chicago Bulls are going to be fun to watch. Yeah, the Bulls will. So good question. CJM? No, I can't really say I have. I was saying, and not sociopathic, but that's also true. Yeah, I got you, homie. I was just messing with you. There is a psychopath epidemic. I shared your video on my Instagram, the one with the Ole Miss Louisville game. Well, thank you, Lorenzo. But somebody had left in after one of my videos, and I think it's this channel. Maybe it was on the channel they took away. They showed them make the grip gloves and make the the grip glove and the ball. They showed that, and I saw somebody else share that, and he got like 20-some views. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, we showed this a long time ago, because there was a hook 'em like Beckham ball that came with a grip ball. And I only saw that commercial one time, but I put it on my other channel, I think. I don't think that was on this channel. But no, CJM, yeah, I haven't. I mean, you got to really have good seats to see a catch like that. But yeah, that's a good question. I had to think about it. Because let me see, last year when my Eagles lost here, I saw the Vikings play. Can't say any catches, and we were up, way up, and all the seats are decent, but can't really say critical catch. And I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I think next game I go to, because I think we're going to see Dallas. I think I'm going to see Dallas play here. Have to look for that. Yeah, I feel like Magnus and basketball would be easier to catch live in person. Yeah, I've caught those. I've been to a bunch of games where basketball games where they've you could see the manipulation. Because it's not, what's funny is, well, maybe now inflation, but at the Timberwolves game, you could sit under the basket for $65. And I mean like 3-4 rows up. Like, from the floor seats, 3-4 rows up on under the basket. And so I would catch that all the time. And then I've told this story before, back in 16, 17, my daughter's mother, they was getting tickets, so we was sitting behind the benches. And that was the first time I touched. No, I didn't touch that ball. Another ball came to me. Yeah, because the first ball I could have touched was, what's his name? The dude went to Connecticut, Butler, because a ball bounced in the trash can and all of them was spitting in the trash can, and he grabbed the ball, and I was like, damn, like I was sitting so close to him. I was like, damn, you picked that ball up, all that spit, and he dropped the ball. Cameron Butler, was that his name? But he grabbed the ball. He hadn't thought. Another one came, bounced over, and I did catch. But it's the, all the balls is now the synthetic. It ain't the old leather balls. Yep. What's the mark of the beast, Mr. Taylor? That's not an easy question, because it's not like they want to say 666, but we could be looking at what they're doing now. This mandate that's going on, a lot of people look at that as being marked. Like the people giving in, what time is it? Yeah, the people giving in is being marked. A lot of people look at it like that. Is that people are volunteering to take the mark. So a lot of people look at this thing as the mark of the beast. So it's not vacuum cleaned or unvacuum cleaned. It's like if you become vacuum cleaned, you have the mark. So that's how some people look at it now. Because we know that 666 is something that they put spooky on. So it doesn't necessarily mean that's the mark. What was it? Was it with the Rockwaters? Damien. Remember Damien had the little thing like Harry Potter? Remember how Harry Potter had the little Z here? They was trying to show you that was the mark of the beast. That's what they was trying to show you. But I want to say that Rosemary's Baby, which later became Damien, the Damien movies, remember he had some type of mark up here too. And that was supposed to be the mark of the beast, because he was supposed to, like this, that the Damien story was a continuation of Rosemary's Baby. And remember Rosemary's Baby, the devil did the same thing that Zeus or whoever did to Mary. It's the same kind of deal. And she had the devil's baby. Can be, right. You're just reading my mind. Yep, it definitely can be. protons, neutrons, electrons. So yeah. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. They try to oogie boogie it, which they try to do a lot of things like that. Make you afraid of it. What did Bobby Hemmett say? Try to make you scared of your own shit. That's what Bobby Hemmett would say. Try to. Oh, I did want to bring this up. So now I've said for a while that if they bring troops into neighborhoods, if they bring troops into Chicago, it ain't to stop violence. It ain't to stop violence. And this article says people that live in the south side of Minneapolis, live in the north side, they saying they ain't being policed enough, so they want them to send in troops. What they're asking for, and I bring up the Batman show, and those of you that follow anime know it's that one Batman show where Batman goes into the city prison. And remember, the mob is controlling the city prison because, again, the army is just to keep people in the prison. And this is what these people is asking for. Troops are not going to help with crime. Troops are going to keep the motherfuckers that live over here in there. And so what you're going to do is find out you ain't going to have access to the city. Now, they might say it's vacuumed against unvacuumed, leaving and coming, but to bring in troops is going to mean you're going to be in a prison city. That is what they're going to do, is make prison cities. In North and South Minneapolis, I've said this before, where Floyd died, they don't patrol over there. I've told the story before where this woman was sexually assaulted. She had to walk 10 blocks home because the police wouldn't go. She lived around where Floyd got killed. Police wasn't going up in there. She had to walk 10 blocks after being sexually assaulted, going to the police, going to the hospital, and they wouldn't even take her home after going through all that trauma because they don't go in them areas. And so they're going to bring troops. It ain't going to do nothing. Again, what you have to understand is how this police forces work. Dope doesn't get sold in cities without some politician, some police getting their palms greased. It's never worked without that. It's never worked without that. Only with their cooperation can it work. And I've looked at this closely for many, many years. I talked about 22 keys getting stowed off an evidence locker in Kalamazoo, Michigan. 22 keys ain't a little thing. It's like a duffel bag full of kilos. Big duffel bag at that, a big duffel bag. And somebody just magically disappears and then the dope is back on the streets. So they've always controlled it. So they're not going to, crime ain't going to stop. That's what these people don't understand. They think crime is going to stop because troops come in. No, your movement is going to be, because they're saying what's going to happen is this is a high crime area. We can't let you people out. Because if we let you people out, you're going to take crime somewhere else. And that's what these people are asking for. And so be careful, the people that ask for that. I am in Utah visiting from Cali, and it's like, doesn't exist here. Nobody wears masks or social distancing. Yeah, I've seen a few people wearing masks, but when we was up in the U.S. Bank Stadium, yeah, there wasn't. Out of them 70,000 people, it was less than 100 with masks out of 70,000. You saw when I'm up on the bar, ain't nobody was wearing masks when we was up on the roof. Yeah, people ain't paying attention to that shit. Fighting the police, family. Well, I mean, you have to stand up for yourself, but be sensible about it, Moray. Be sensible about it. That's all. My cousin's family is moving to Kabaska. Wow. How they have people hypnotized and traumatized globally. Oh, yeah. Well, 9/11 did that at first. America was, looked at as so great and people was just mind blown. Like this dude, his mind was blown. So a lot of his writings, 9/11 blew his mind, and you see where his writings suffered. He didn't see it. Then later he's like, well, it doesn't matter who did it or didn't do it. It still was a ripple effect through the whole society. Yeah. Like Patrick Henry say, give me liberty or give me death. There you go. Mandate's crazy out here in Cali still. I'm trying to get out of there. Way too many sheep out here. Yeah, a lot of people are running out of California. It is like I wouldn't even want to live out there. Like, why? Why right now? Not a good state to be in. So yeah, I can't blame you. Shawana Glover, they're going to bring in UN peacekeepers, Rex 84, King Alfred plant. I think Nick said it, but I already know up here um in Canada, the peacekeeping Chinese been here in Canada. I think Nick Taylor was saying the same thing in Texas, but I know they've been in Canada. I know they got Chinese peacekeepers, UN peacekeepers been in Canada. Yeah. And Minnesota borders Canada. It's parts of Minnesota where you can go up in Canada without an ID or anything. You get caught. Like there was this jogger that was jogging, and she was jogging on the Canadian side, didn't have her papers, and she they put her in the camp for some weeks, for some months. So, but yeah, it's been peacekeepers training up in Canada. I know that. So, and then Nick said down in Texas too. They know most now know what's going on. Yeah, they do. They do. Is there a way to astral project out of your body and leave forever? What is the Kevin Spacey movie when he kept telling him he was an alien, and then when he finally left? Because what death really is what death really is. Like I have some people that told me in the past that they lost their body, which is kind of impossible when you astral project. Because one reason why you could wear silver and would help when you wear silver, there's like a silver cord connected with your navel. That's what death is. Like if you left your body and you see that cord rip apart, you know that you've passed. That's a way in your astral body that you know you passed. But long as you astral project and that silver cord is still with you. Now, I remember my brother sometimes would say that he would leave his body and it would be so peaceful that he hated coming back. That's part of it too. But it's almost like if you look at Reconstruction, and if all the brothers that was locked in prison refused just to work, like fuck y'all, we ain't gonna work. Okay, you beat one, you beat another, you gonna beat all 3,000 of us? After a while, they'd get tired of beating. Remember, in 12 Years a Slave, they was trying to bust in them teeth. If all the slaves apparently would have done that, I mean, how many are they gonna do like that? Forcing them to do stuff. Yeah. So, um, my point is, you could do that, and like you see a lot of vegetables like that, where people just never want to come back, and you do see people like that. Um, they get put in homes, and the body deteriorates. There are people like that. I only hesitate because that's a tough route to take, because the body, there's so much, everything's bad nowadays, but it's almost like a suicide kind of thing too. I don't know if that would give you eternal life, leaving like that, because it's almost like a mental suicide. I don't know if that's be the route to take. Um, it's kind of a tough call, because would the mental suicide be the same as physical suicide, that you didn't return? That's a tough one to call. That's a tough one to call. Hmm. And I want to answer that really too quickly, but it would almost be mental suicide, same kind of thing. So, um, do your practice, whichever level you're at. While you here, make it the most spiritual you could be, and see if that spirituality can help you move through some of this and help you make the decisions that's best for you. I guess that's the best I could say. Y'all, yeah, this planet is beyond saving. Yeah. If I leave, I'm cutting my own cord. I don't know if you can, but you could. Mental suicide. This planet is beyond saving. I agree. My first time listening to this show, and I don't want it to end. You're amazing. Well, thank you, Stacey Ray. I'm about to go because I'm trying to get up early to go play pickleball in the morning. At least 5% of U.S. population is extraordinarily so easily that they are in constant state of exaggerated suggestibility when awake. Dr. Tobias H. Brochure. That's a good point, Tyrone. It is. It's music. It's music. Hey baby, hey baby, and those beats, and how how just the hertz being a little off is if hypnotized. It's like before I went to college, I had read a report on why you shouldn't sleep with your radio on because it could be suggestive shit that could be suggested while you sleep. And you know the amount of college people that I was around. I would dare say every other dorm had music on all night. Every other, excuse me, not dorm, but every other room. And it was like I constantly knew not to listen to that all night. Like if you go to sleep with the TV on, it's suggestive shit you see in the commercials. So when you're asleep, you're hearing that. It's suggesting shit to you. So that's a good point, Tyrone. Wouldn't that be a coma, Shawana? Could be a coma, could be. Of course, most people look at a coma as some kind of trauma, but you could have, again, mental suicide. You could put yourself comatose. That wouldn't be very natural though, but you could. You could. Wouldn't be very natural. Would take more than one time because the people that do it don't just be one time they want to disconnect. Because what happens is you like in the book Be Here Now, they talk about how they took acid every day for 30 days, but the thing would be is you'd have to come down. So no matter what part of nirvana you would reach, you would still come down. And so as hard as you would try to do to stay away, it would be so much trying to bring you back. And could you fight that? Could you put yourself in enough coma to fight that? Where you really shut everything down. And that normally takes some type of master to do that. I mean, if you got that kind of ability, then you probably could. Hey, Amp Redmond, thank you for joining. So, but there's still people like in us in the chat who are keeping strong. Light will shine eventually, brother. It will. It will. Oh, and let me say this because gosh. Enlightened One. Me and Enlightened One are doing a show Tuesday. I think it's going to be 9 o'clock my time, Central Time. So 10 o'clock out east. Will it be 8 o'clock California time? Or Mountain Time, it'll be 10. Mountain Time would be 8. And then West Coast time be 7. Eastern time 10 because she's in Atlanta. So it'll be 10 o'clock her time. So we're going to do a show, and the show is going to be about polygamy and her opinion of polygamy. And so I'll make a header for it so people can look out for it, but definitely Tuesday at 9 o'clock Central. We'll be back. I was born in 98, but I wish I was born around your time to see how the manipulation evolved through the years. It's funny. My son was born. I have a son that was born in 98 too, because you got to be 23. My son is 23. It'll be 24 April. But my oldest son that's 32, I remember him saying that he would see pictures of me as a little boy, and he's like, I remember he saw the first color picture of me when I was a little boy, and he's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a color picture." He's like, "It wasn't black and white when you lived?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "All the other pictures I see of old days, it's in black and white, so I just assumed everything was in black and white." Like, that movie where it's only one people in color and everybody else is in black and white, and the person passes around the color. But that's what my son thought. I was like, "You are silly." He's like, "Yeah, that's what I thought, Dad. I thought everything was in black and white." Lorenzo says, "You're one of the elders. I enjoy interaction when I enjoy listening to your stories and insight on things, past and present, future, sports." Well, I appreciate it. And it's like, I guess in closing, I'm going to say this. It's like so many people think they got to comment about stuff, and they only comment about the stories. And it's like, if sports ain't your thing, really stay out of it. I mean, I know people like to be intelligent, but a lot of what you hear people do is you hear people regurgitating what they done heard on television without really knowing sports enough to really having a true opinion about what's going on. It's all the time emotional level, but it's most of the time you repeating what you heard. And so unless you really study this thing all the time, it's hard to have an opinion on a sports related thing. Like it's people talking about Gruden that know nothing about football. And I listen to these people trying to talk about Kyrie and know nothing really about basketball. But it's a talking point. And so you people that have channels out there, get sports people. Because I was commenting, I'm like, wait a minute. And I know the person that owns the channel. I know he don't know anything about sports because me, him, and Sly did a show years ago. And when it came to sports, he was kind of stumped. And I was like, I saw then that sports wasn't his thing. Sports ain't your thing. If you want to bring people and talk about sports, bring people that know sports, not just the talking points. There's us out there that know about sports, that study this stuff, lifetime of studying it. So a little bit of shade thrown because it comes off generic. It comes off generic. So that's all I'll say about that. I think I hit all my points. Oh, one more thing. I guess there was a YouTuber that this dude said he was in all what did he say? He was like on the plains. He was a U.S. Marshal. So I guess his YouTube channel, he's always wearing, I guess, different uniforms and shit and showing that he's a U.S. Marshal or some shit. And so apparently he messed around with one of his subscribers and she got to know him and was like, this motherfucker ain't none of this. He was a fake person. And apparently he just got arrested for impersonating an officer because I guess they ran up in his house and found a bunch of guns and a bunch of fake badges and shit. But I ran into, how much of this can I say? Running my mouth. I can say a little bit. There's another group in this area doing the same thing. Where they lived, they was wearing uniforms and shit. And the people and their neighbors all thought these people was in the military, and they wasn't. Matter of fact, they was about to hit the neighbor really hard. They was about to hit the neighbor really hard in some fraud that would have cost the neighbor hundreds of thousands of dollars. And luckily, the mail person knew who the name went to and didn't take it to the address. It took it to the person. And this person was about to get $500,000 approved credit given to them. So seems to be this is a group of people doing this kind of thing. So if y'all see that kind of thing, or you dealing with some people that's saying they in the military and it's something shaky, pay attention to that because it seems to be this is a kind of people are stealing from people like this. So I wanted to say that I wanted to stay that in there. You've been in sports game for a while. You got to be older than you to outdo. Yeah, you got to. Again, I went to my first football game at 2. I went to, when I was older, I went to the first football game at 11. But even before then, I saw Bill Russell play. This is my Bill Russell story, and I think I've told this before. So I'm with some brothers that just talk about people. And Bill Russell, like, how Kevin Garnett hair be BB shotted? This is how Bill Russell's at the game. And I was sitting next to the barber, and he was like, Bill, and Bill turned around because we was sitting not that far from me. And he looked at me and said, I do hair. I can comb out and cut out them BBs. And all the side of the crowd just laughed at Bill Russell. He turned around real quick. But like, Kevin Garnett hair be having what they used to call BB shots, the tight little curls. And if you don't brush them out, yeah, Bill Russell was like that when he was younger, kind of very raggedy. Not a very smooth looking dude, but I never forgot that. Everybody's laughing at Bill Russell. Joe Bazell. Joe Bazell's like, I do hair. I'll cut them BBs and comb them out. So that's my Bill Russell story. But I'm going to leave with Mora like I always do. And Mora is something I give everybody freely from the Time Walkers. And it goes like this. It all starts with a gentle sadness. They came from their original homeland. They knew that they had an exact number of years and days before they would disappear off the earth as a culture and a lifestyle. But the civilization would build to a gentle love. They lived in the Creator's day and knew how to separate cycles in the great serpent. And the great serpent is the Milky Way. And as the mind would say, treat me well because I am another yourself. Well, this is the Chocolate Mountain Show. I thank each and every one of you for the comments and watching and the interaction. And as always, till we meet again.